people, it's Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Recovery Houston. So I'm super excited today because we have Dr. Robb Kelly on, who, from what I have heard, is the Gordon Ramsay of the recovery world. So this will be exciting. And I'm really honored that he's on the show today, and I'm really looking forward to it. And so with that, Dr. Kelly, I'm just going to go ahead and let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Good to be here, guys. My name is Dr. Robb Kelly. I'm a psychologist specializing in addiction and alcoholism. And I'm here today to tell you a bit about my story and then tell you the great things that we're up to and what an amazing life it is in recovery. Because that's what it's about. I mean, I don't live in the past. I remember the past, and sometimes I think about the past, but I don't live there. And I think when I used to live there, because I did for a long time, my life sucked. And then when I didn't, it got better. So our story started when at the age of 9, when I took my first drink. Born into a musical family, I was thrown on stage, literally, with my auntie and uncle playing bass guitar. My auntie sang and my uncle played rhythm guitar. And we created this trio that would go out every Friday and Saturday and Sunday night and play the clubs and pubs and bars around Manchester, back in the United Kingdom. Because that's where I'm from, in case some of you are sat there and thinking I'm from East Texas. I'm not. I'm from England. So that becomes a bit of a shock. But that's what we used to do. I was probably the richest school kid at the time because I was earning serious money. But I did set my first drink. It was actually in Liverpool, where the Beatles are famous for. We were playing a club over there. And we played the first half. And I came off. And there was probably 10 times the audience that we usually use. So when I came off, I was so terrified of going back on again that I froze. And I was feeling sick and I couldn't catch my breath. And instead of my uncle taking me to the hospital, he gave me a beer and says, just try this. When I drank that beer for the first time, my whole world changed right there and then. Which is funny because when I look back, I say to my friends, can you remember when you was really young and you had a drink, your very first alcohol? You go, yeah, it was horrible. I spat it out. I swore never to drink again. That wasn't me. I took my first drink of alcohol and my whole world just ignited. Suddenly, I could do things that I wouldn't normally do. Going into my teens, I could speak to girls. I could play guitar. I could do anything crazy. So what I know that now, but I didn't know then, is that was my alcoholism kicking off. And although it would give me loads and years of happiness and fun, it would end in disaster. And for me, that's where it ends every single time. There's not one case. Towards the end of my drinking, I'll start at the beginning, but let me tell you, towards the end of my drinking days, and whenever I took one drink, which was never one drink, it always ended up in blackout, the next morning I would always, without a doubt, wake up in a hospital bed, strapped to it in a psych ward, or the police station, locked in a cell. They were the only two places that I would end up. I never got home and got home next day and went, that wasn't too bad, actually. Never. It all would end up in disaster. But it took a long time to get there. So my schooling was pretty cool. I sort of went through normal school, but I always felt as if I didn't fit in anywhere. So I would be searching for something that I couldn't find all through my teen years. And then by the age I was 14, 15, because I'm a musician by trade, I decided to go for an audition as a session bass player, a studio session musician. And basically what we did is we made jingles for radio and TV, mostly radio. Back in the day when you had to play instruments, not sat in front of a screen making these songs up with touches of your fingers, with not a musician in sight. These were proper taping days where we taped on either a 6 or an 8 track for these gigs. So I applied for an audition at at Strawberry Studios, and I got the gig, and I would turn up for a couple of hours every couple of days, and they would pay me a fortune at the age of 14 and 15. So by the time I got to 16, I saw an ad in the Music Melody Maker. It was like a music magazine for England, and it was asking for a session bass player for Abbey Road, the famous Abbey Road in London. So I'm drinking, and I'm thinking I can conquer the world, and I'm ready to leave normal school, high school, so I applied for the job. I remember going down there on the train. This is way before cell phones and emails. So I got a letter. I went down on the train with my big guitar in my case, and I got outside Abbey Road, and I looked at Abbey Road, and I looked at this liquor store not far from there, and I thought to myself, I'll just have one beer to calm me down for my one audition. So I got the beer, drank it outside Abbey Road. I went in, I played my stuff, come out, waited for the letter, and the letter cursed audition. Would you like to come for a second one? So off I went a few days later down to London again. And this is my crazy thinking. So if I had one beer for the first audition, it makes sense to have 2 beers for the second audition. So I drank the 2 beers and I went in there and I passed the audition. I had 7 auditions for that job. So at the last one, I drank 7 beers. I don't remember walking into the studio. I definitely don't remember doing the session. I remember waking up in bed, back in my home bed the next day. And darn it, 10 days later, I got a letter to say I got the position.
Oh, wow.
Now, what that told me, actually, it told me that every time I drank, I was successful. So there my career started off. So I was earning that much money. I joined the Freemasons at an early age because our lodge needed an organist and I could play the organ. So I got updated real quick and fled through the ranks. So I'm a young kid Freemason, I'm a musician, and I want to do better than anybody else in my family because we come from a trailer park. We come from the council estates, the projects. My mum and dad were poor. We were raised, on the breadline. So I got all my knowledge, made all my contacts, and I wanted to go to university. Now, for those people that are listening who are alcoholic or addict, you'll know what I'm talking about. I have the addictive brain. It's either all or it's nothing. I do nothing in half measures. So what school did I want to go to? I wanted to go to Oxford University, of course, because that would go, screw you guys on the council estates and the projects. Look at me, I've made something of myself. Because I knew deep down inside that I was going to end up with nothing because I'm an alcoholic. So my session playing days, which were a fortune, I got paid a fortune in those days, put me through college, put me through Oxford University. So I played with Queen, Elton John, David Bowie, all the guys of the late 70s and early 80s. And I made a lot of money. So I actually went to college. I graduated from college, which was awesome. First guy to go to college and even graduate. And when I came out, I joined the police force.
Oh, really?
Now, I got thrown out of college for drinking. Yeah, I don't know why. I had no idea why I went to the police force. I think it's because everybody in my lodge was a police officer. So I almost got thrown out of college for drinking. I joined the police force and lasted about 4 months before they fired me for being drunk. So there's a pattern going on here that I didn't see. You see, it kept shocking me because I went to work once as a police officer. I was drunk, and I stopped halfway to work, got a little bottle of vodka, drank it just to get me in the mood for the day, and somebody could smell it on me. Because listen, guys, I've got some bad news. Whoever said you can't smell vodka on your breath is wrong. You can. It comes out of your pores. It's like, it's a stink. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. So I got caught. I got caught drinking, and they fired me. I remember walking. They won't let me drive home. So you can't drive home, Rob. You're drunk. And I'm like, really? And you're alcoholic and all this great stuff. And they stripped me of my stuff, and I'm walking home. And I wasn't bothered that I'd lost my job. I wasn't really bothered that they caught me. I was bothered because they called me an alcoholic. Now, I know what alcoholics are like. They're the guys with a big overcoat on, with the string around the waist, sat beside a hot little fire burning in a can, drinking out of a brown paper bag. That's an alcoholic. It wasn't me. I went to Oxford University. How can I be an alcoholic? I'm intelligent. I'm awesome, and like everything in my life was amazing. So after that, I set my own telecom company up way before the phones came out. We were building masts for the Army and the Navy, and then we later went on to build for the early telecoms back in the day. So literally, again, I started a company with £300 in the bank that later that year probably had $1.2 million in the bank, or pounds, because I'm an all or nothing guy. I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to repeat this because it's very important that people know about the addictive brain. So this went on for several years, and I bought the big house, and I'm driving the Porsches and the Bentleys, and I'm wearing the Rolex watches, and I'm wearing Gucci and all that Louis Vuitton and all that great stuff, and I'm the man. But I still couldn't stop drinking. Not as if I wanted to, mind. I just kept, drinking, and it wasn't a problem. And every now and again, I'd pass out and black out and wake up in a different country, or I'd fall down the stairs and smash my nose in. But it wasn't a problem. Everything was under control. I wasn't an alcoholic. I was just somebody going through some bad luck. So I met a girl, and she often said, do you think you should cut back on your drinking? I'm like, no way. I start at 6 o'clock in the morning, I finish at 6 at night. I've got 12 hours not drinking. What else do you want? I didn't realize that 6 in the morning and 6 at night was not the norm. I thought everybody did this. But some of the crap that we had to put up with, working with the public and stuff like that, I mean, surely everybody drank, but apparently not. It was only me at the time. And it was absolutely horrendous. But we decided to get married. Now, when we got married, there was an oath made between me and my wife that I would not drink for a good 6 months, just to prove that I didn't have a problem. We got married on the Monday. By the Tuesday, I'm drunk. Again, somewhere in a bar. So, again, there's a pattern there which I can't see. And it became obvious to other people that there was a heavy drinking problem starting, and possibly alcoholically drinking, though again, I wasn't aware. I used to walk around the yard in the morning, in the garden, probably 5:30, 5:45 in the morning, drinking a bottle of vodka, thinking, why is everybody on my back about this drinking? I don't understand it. Thinking there was nothing wrong. This is my crazy head, how crazy it was. So, house on the hill, everything going good, decided to have our first child. Well, that was it then. My drinking was going to stop. Now we were a family. Now we had mom and dad and a baby. So my drinking had to stop. So off we went to the hospital. We gave birth to our eldest daughter, Charlotte. And I swore to my wife the minute she was born, we handed it to mom, and then they handed the baby to me. And I cried, and I said to my wife, I'm done with drinking. This is a sensible person you're looking at now. And that is it. It was the worst 4 hours of my life. Because I was climbing the walls. In the end, my wife said, go and have a drink, for God's sake. Go and have a drink. So that's what I ended up doing. And that carried on. And then 2 years later, we're going to have our second child. So we got pregnant. We bought a dog. Now we have 2.4 children and a dog and a house and mortgage and cars, and business is going good. So I took 2 Bibles to the church, to the hospital with me. And when the baby was born, my second baby, Abigail, 2 girls, I put each hand on the 2 Bibles, and I looked my wife in the face and said, I swear to God, to the Bible, and to you and our daughters that I will never touch alcohol ever again. It was the worst 2 hours of my life, because that's all I lasted. Still didn't think I had a problem. This is the crazy part about it. So, carried on drinking, and then it all started to go wrong. And it went wrong, for me, it went wrong real quickly. I mean, the drinking built up over a period of time, but there was a spate over about 6 months where I went from self-made millionaire to homeless, literally living on the streets. And it started with the crazy things, like I would get up one morning. Now this time, I'm blacking out on a regular basis. I'm blacking out every time I drink. I don't remember driving home from work. I don't remember getting home, having dinner with everybody. But my wife would often say, you look over the table and go, you're drunk. And I go, no, I'm not drunk. Here's a spoiler alert for everybody. If anybody asks you, are you drunk, just tell them yes. They already know. Stop saying no. It's like every time I was drunk, it's like, are you drunk? I go, no. But they know. They can stink it. You're knocking stuff over. You're not remembering. You're stumbling your words. Come on. I remember pulling in our street and hitting almost every car on our road one night. And I got next morning, and there were literally 7 people at the door for me wanting my insurance details because I'd hit every single car. Aww. I mean, I don't remember doing that. It was horrible. Just sat there, just feeling, At first, when you're young, you can turn it into a joke. Well, I had one of those nights. But one of those nights became every night. And I woke up one morning and my wife walks in with a big black eye. And I'm like, what's going on? What happened? What's going on? Jumped up all defensive, grabbing the baseball bat. What's going on? Who's done that? And she said, you did that. I'm like, what? Now, my father raised me never to raise a hand to a lady, and I never would. but yet she woke up with a black eye. I still didn't believe her. And she said, not only did you punch me in the face, but you punched me in the face holding our 6-month-old daughter. I was devastated. Still didn't stop drinking though. I carried on drinking. I came downstairs one morning. I woke up at 3 o'clock. I'm looking for a drink. There's vodka around somewhere. My head's banging. I need a drink. Can't find anything under the bed because that's where I kept it. Come downstairs to the kitchen, opened a cupboard in the kitchen, and there was half a bottle of vodka. Oh my God, it was like winning the lottery. I took it out. I said a quick prayer. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I put it on the side of the counter. I turned round for 2 seconds to grab a crystal glass because I'm not an alcoholic. I'm drinking out of a crystal glass. I'm not drinking out the bottle. That would be being an alcoholic. So I got this beautiful crystal glass down, and as I turned round to grab the bottle, my wife had followed me downstairs, and she grabbed the bottle off the side of the counter, and she said, Rob, I think you've had enough. Let me think about that for a second. So this is the third handle bottle within 24 hours. I was due to drive to work in about 3 hours' time for an important board meeting. I was well over the limit and still drunk from the night before. I'd have probably said, thank you, Mrs. Kelly, and gone to bed and slept for 3 hours and got up for work. What this alcoholic did was took a kitchen knife out and stabbed her 3 times. As she fell to the floor with blood all over the kitchen, I picked the bottle up and I finished the bottle off. And then I called the police and the ambulance, and when I stood outside and heard them come, I'd called a cab. And as soon as I heard the sirens in the background, I jumped into a taxi and I fled to Spain. And I carried on drinking, and I carried on drinking, and I carried on drinking. And it was just a blackout for 3 months. The only reason why I came back to England was I had a signed affidavit from her to tell the attorney that she would not press charges. Because assault with a deadly weapon, or attempted murder, as they would call it, gives me prison time. I can't do prison time. I would rather kill myself than do prison time. So I came back home thinking, oh, well, here we go again. I'm going to really try to stop drinking. And I got home to the house, and there were 5 suitcases lined up on the door. And she says, I'm leaving. And she took the kids. And the last thing she said to me was, I love you to bits, Rob, but you're not killing me, and you're not killing our children. Wow. And I stood in this big house, Ashley, and this big door in this $1 million house, and they walked down the path, and I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe they're leaving. And they angry. I was so angry at them. I was so angry at the situation. It's like, do you know who I am? How dare you do this to me? So she'd only been gone an hour, and I got onto my attorney and said, look, here's the deal. And I explained the situation. I said, I don't care what you have to do, but I will give you £25,000. This is back in the 80s, which is 100 grand today. If you get my kids and return them back to me tomorrow. And 10 o'clock next morning, he came to the door, knocked on the door, and there's my 2 children, ages 1 and 3. I opened the door. I was just absolutely over the wall. I was just, got my kids back. That'll show her. I take him and I give him a check for the deal. I came into the front room. I sat him down in front of the TV. I walked into the kitchen and thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I just had one drink, one beer, to celebrate my kids coming home? I remember the sound of that one beer as I opened the can. 3 days later, when the police kicked the door down, where they were stepping over empty bottles of vodka, they found my daughters in the corner. They'd not been fed for 2.5, 3 days. They'd not been changed any diapers for 2.5, 3 days. And they almost died. And Dad was on the floor in a drunken stupor. I don't remember that. I remember the officer kicking me and serving me with unfit father papers. And they took my daughters off me. The authorities were there, the police was there, child services were there, my wife was there, her mother was there, and they took my girls. And the eldest one, age 3, was walking down the path with Mummy, and she turned around and said, Daddy, Daddy, please don't go. I was crying. Police were crying, she was crying. Halfway down the path, she turned around one more time and she says, Daddy, Daddy, please get better. And I was sobbing even more. Stood in this huge doorway of this mansion. And they got to the gate at the end of the path, and she turned around one more time. And she said, Daddy, please stop drinking. And I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So I went back in the kitchen and I opened another beer, thinking that would make it all go away. Around 6 months later, my wife had gone. Our kids had gone. The house was foreclosed on. The leased cars went back. The business went bump. My mum threw me out. My friends threw me out. My acquaintances threw me out. And I was living on the streets. That's the last time I saw my youngest daughter. Never seen her since 20, 30 years. I've never seen her.
Wow.
It's just heartbreaking. I remember the first night on the streets, I was laying on the streets, and my bed that night was a bus shelter on a cold, rainy, black night in Manchester. And I cried myself to sleep in that bus shelter. And I kept thinking, where did it all go wrong? It's alcoholism. It's where it went wrong. Stayed on the streets for 14 months. I had a bench that was called mine. That was my restroom. It was my shower. It was my dining room, my kitchen, and my living room, that bench. And I stayed there for 14 months. I attempted suicide 6 times. On 2 occasions I succeeded. And on 2 occasions they brought me back to life on the side of an old, dirty, stinky road. The back ends of Manchester. See, the problem with me is I didn't want to live anymore. Every birthday and Christmas I would cry for my kids. The torment, the pain, the anguish. Thought that they didn't have Daddy to turn to. Daddy would never see the first girl ride a bike or go to school. He was just, couldn't live with that. I tried on several occasions to try and kill myself, and it just wasn't working for me. It was crazy. It was just crazy days. And then one morning around 2:30 in the morning, I was walking down the back end of Manchester, and I dropped down to my hands and knees. And I just started to cry from my stomach. I wasn't crying because I'd lost my kids or my wife or my money or lost my medical license, anything like that. I was crying because the first time in my life I realized I couldn't stop drinking. And it took all that for me to realize. That's when I see people today going through what I've gone through. It just kills me. When I was crying, I looked up to the sky. I remember saying, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. Literally 30 seconds later, a guy walked around the corner, missed his last bus home from a Bible study, had a little Bible in his hand and said, can I help you? And I said, I'm dying. And he was an alcoholic in recovery. He was a Christian guy. He took me back to his house. He let me shower for the first time in a year. I ate proper food for the first time in a year. And he said, you can stay here as long as you like, on one condition. You have to come to a 12-step meeting with me. And I hated them meetings. I'd been there before. It was all trying to outdo each other, war stories and how much they drank and all this stuff. I was sat there with this meeting the next night with him, and I was just like bored. These guys were going around saying war stories. And then halfway round, this guy with a white beard and white hair, dressed quite casually, he said, my name's John, I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I thought, ooh, what did he just say? And he spoke about recovering from this crap that we go through. He talked about good stuff. I was excited by this guy. And every time he said, he'd open this book and he'd point at the page and I'd look and it was there. And I'd never seen this before. I'd read this book 1,000 times. So after the meeting, I walked over to him and said, can you sponsor me? And he went, nope. But I will be your spiritual advisor for 8 weeks. I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. But all right. And he told me to buy one of these books and buy a dictionary. And he'd give me his address. And for 8 weeks, I walked there every Wednesday. I sat down with him. We read the book together. He told me stuff about recovery and alcoholism that blew my mind away. He showed me stuff in that book that I'd never seen before. And when I went to other meetings and started talking about this book, the other people were blown away. We did the steps in 2 days. He explained why, and it made perfect sense. It was in the book. So I'd done this for 8 weeks, every Wednesday, walking an hour to his house, spending an hour with him and walking back in the rain for an hour, 8 times, up to his apartment, learning stuff, teaching stuff, growing as a person, getting more confidence, knowing that something better than this, Because I thought it was my lot when I was on the streets. This is it. This time you're going to die, Rob. You know, just this is it. I've come accustomed to that. And yet here it was with this guy. So the last night I left him, I knew that if I continued to do, he told me a couple of things. Do this for the rest of your life, you'll never drink again. And also when you work with someone, guarantee they can recover, which was unheard of back then. I said, okay, that's what I'll do, John. And he also said life's going to get better from today. So 2 days later, I got a part-time job. Just came out the blue. And after 2 weeks, I got my first paycheck. It was like 20-something pounds. It was nothing, but it was a paycheck for me. You know, I was proud of someone. So I went to the gas station, the petrol station, and I bought him a little card, and I bought him a little teddy bear, like 2 inches tall. It was like 20 cents. That's all I could afford. And I did the walk back to his house again. And I wanted to give him this card, and I wanted to give him this teddy bear, and I wanted to thank him for what I did, because I was a different person. When I went back to his apartment, I knocked on the door. There was no answer. I was banging that loud that the next door neighbor opened the door and she says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Can you tell me where John's moved to?" And she said, and I quote, "There's been nobody in that apartment for at least 6 months that I've been here." So I let her close the door and thought, weirdo. So when she closed the door and the light went off, the whole light, I went to the left-hand side and I knocked on the door there, and a guy come to the door. He said, "Can you tell me where John's relocated to?" And he told me that that apartment had been empty for at least 2 years that he'd been there. Never found that guy.
Wow.
Went back to the meeting. Said to this guy, "Do you remember that guy last night, the guy, the white hair, John?" He went, "No." See, I thought he was humiliating me. I said, "I was over near the coffee machine speaking to him." And he said, "No, Rob, we saw you over the coffee machine talking to yourself." So I grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and I was going to beat him up. 2 people pulled me off. I said, "Don't ever you humiliate me like that. You saw me over there with him." But he was adamant I was speaking to myself. Never found that man. I don't remember him being there. I just know that since that day, life's got better and better every single day. And I made a pact on the streets. For the rest of my life, if I ever get off the streets, I'm going to work with alcoholics, addicts and their families. I'm going to do it so aggressively. I'm going to do it so out the box. And I'm going to shock the addiction world. Because I was sick to death of watching people going in and out of treatment and going back to the same treatment 8 or 9 times in a row, spending the same $30,000 each month. It made me sick. It's like, what are these guys offering? See, the reason why recovery is so bad everywhere is there's no money in recovery. The pharmaceutical company can't give us a pill to cure it, so no one's interested. It's bad business if someone only comes to your treatment center once. I wanted to stop all that. So I settled practice and I came over here. I came over for 2 weeks, that's all, to do a presentation and a talk. And I ended up staying for 14 years now.
Must have been a good talk.
Yeah, well, it's weird because when I stepped off the plane at DFW near Dallas, I just realized that I was never going to go home again. It was the weirdest feeling. And lots of things had happened before that. You know, they say that everyone keeps telling me it's a God deal, and I could never see it. You see, a week before I was supposed to come, I got everything packed. I was so excited to come to America. It's like I've never been before. This church contacted me, "When you come over for 2 weeks, we'll pay for everything." They got me a return ticket, you know, it's 14 days apart. I was so excited, I started to pack in a week before. And about 5 days before, I got my passport out and it had expired by 2 or 3 days.
No.
And I thought, oh my God, no. So I jumped on the bus and went down to Liverpool to the passport office, and I walked in, I gave him all my stuff, and he went, "It's going to be about 8 or 9 weeks. I'm like, what? No, it can't be. I'm supposed to fly in 7 days' time. It can't be. I said, "Can I expedite it?" And he said, "Well, you can, but it'll still be 4 weeks. I'm like, "There's no chance of no, 4 weeks, that's it. It's 4 weeks. You might as well just let the passport go through and don't expedite it because it ain't going to come in time." So I paid for the normal passport in 8 weeks and I went back home. Supposed to fly out on the Friday, and this was now Monday. And I got back home and I thought, I'll wait till Thursday to call them because I was too embarrassed to call them. This had been set up for about 3 months. So the Wednesday came and I've unpacked all my bag and I'm really down. And there was a knock at the apartment door, and I opened the door and the postman that was there with my passport. Right there and then I knew that there's something bigger than this driving this train. See, I was working with people and they were getting well. Not many people relapsing around me when I was working, showing the book study and going through. So I combined that with psychology, and I combined that with NLP to change the way people think, not try and change the way they drink. And that was my biggest success. So when I came over here and stepped off the plane, you knew there was something crazy going on. And then I applied for my green card, so I couldn't work for 9 months that it was being applied for. You can't go leave the country in that 9 months, otherwise you have to start all over again. And then somebody heard me at one of the worst talks I've ever done at 12-step group. This guy heard me, and he gave me a business card. He said, "Can you call me tomorrow? I have a proposition." So I said, yeah. So we called him tomorrow, next day, and he told me he was the CEO of FMS Productions, which is a huge production company of addiction videos in Austin, and that he wanted to record me and do 4 DVDs, and that he'd pay me $80,000 for the privilege. And I'm like, there is no way is that going to happen. And 4 weeks after we met, I signed contracts, and a week later we recorded.
Wow.
And I got the money and thought, wow. And I get 5% of the profits, and in the first 12 weeks, it sold $1.2 million. So I knew I was in the right place. And I started to go from there. I just started to work with people. I set up, we have 4 practices around the world. We have Dallas, we have San Antonio, we have Zurich, and we have Mallorca, and we have a satellite office in Manchester. Because my eldest daughter, 2 years ago, after 25 years, got in contact with me on Facebook. And she says, "Dad, I've seen you on TV. I want to talk to you. I don't believe everything everyone's telling me." And I flew back home on the next plane. And I got back home and I got to her apartment. She opened the door and we just hugged each other. And we cried like crazy. I've not seen this girl for 25 years. And we just had so much in common. And then she says, "Dad, I've got something to show you." And she walked me into a lounge and she handed me my 9-month-old granddaughter.
Aww. Aww.
It was there and then I knew I was doing something right. It was just phenomenal. So she wanted to go back to school, so I paid for it to go back to college. And she's now a counselor, and she works for us. She works for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's in our Manchester
so great.
No. It's just like, now the youngest daughter's never been in touch. I don't think she ever will, but my oldest daughter, yeah, she holds down the Manchester office, so she's a counselor now, which is just absolutely unbelievable as far as I'm concerned, how things have turned around. And I work on myself, and I work with people, and I got on TV, and I wrote a book, and all. I mean, there's a couple of things when I came to America that people thought was crazy. I said, I want to be on national TV, I want to be a millionaire, and I want a best-selling book. I sit here today, all of them have come true, because I had the mindset that if you're going to get sober, you need to conquer the world. I'm not getting sober to be the same old person living in a little apartment. I'm not going to do that. I'm an all or nothing guy. So that's what I did. And I'm confident today. I'm powerful. I curse a lot when I'm with parents. Texas State Board hates it. They threatened so many times to sue me and throw me away. But it's I talk. And God, I remember years ago when I was in his house, and we got chatting, and he said to me, and this is who I in the world, and I said, I don't know, because you can cook really well. And he said, hell no, because I tell everybody I am. And that blew my mind. I'm like, wow. So I started telling everyone I'm the best addictionologist in the world. In fact, the back of my business card says the best, capital B-E-S-T, addictionologist in the world, capital W. I mean, it's blatant. And all of a sudden I became that guy because I believed in myself when no one else did. They used to step over me on the streets and spit on me. They wouldn't give me the time of day on the streets. I dropped that much weight because not eating that. Kids used to beat me up. They knocked all my teeth out. They broke my nose. They gave me fractures of their head when they hit me with a steel pipe, trying to steal my sneakers. They stole my clothes. They stole my identity. They stole everything about me. They abandoned me. Everyone abandoned me. Parents wouldn't speak to me. They abandoned me on the streets. I had to live with that for the rest of my life. I used to hear people in 12-step meetings go, don't waste your time with Robb Kelly. He's going to die. He's a waste of time. He just doesn't get it. I heard people say that about me. So today I can look them people in the eye and say, yeah, look at me now. Look at me now. See, one person that didn't give up on me.
And that must be a pretty good feeling, huh? Look at me now. Because look at you now.
It is. It's a good feeling, but I always want to be that one person that didn't give up on people. And that's who I am today. I don't sugarcoat this stuff. Sugarcoating this disease kills people. If you come to me, I'm going to tell you exactly how it is. If you don't do this deal, you're going to die. End of story. You can't tell people that. I'm telling people that. There's 64 people died today of addiction in America. 64 people. It's only 4 o'clock. 4:30. 64 people have already died. There's going to be a bunch more before the 24 hours is up. But people don't see this. And the reason they don't see it's an epidemic is Johnny, drunk out of his face because an alcoholic, drives home, smashes his car, goes down as accident. Johnny leaves his chip pan on in the kitchen because he's too drunk and wasted to turn it off, goes down as fire. Guy dies of his liver's exploded because it's over 40%. It's cirrhosis. Don't go down as that. It goes as liver failure. We're not counting the real numbers of people that are dying on a daily basis from this disease. We did an experiment in Richardson General Hospital, just outside Dallas, of people coming in on a Friday and Saturday night. 96% of people walking through the ER door, the emergency room door, had drugs or alcohol to excess in their body. 4 people died that night. All 4 people went down as different accidents. Never went down as alcoholism, though you could blatantly see they'd overdosed. It was crazy. And that's the stuff I've been about all the time. I'm not anonymous by no means. I'm shutting my mouth off every single day about this disease. And yet anybody can face me. You call me up. I'll put you in your place. This is a deadly disease that's killing more people than we think. So I'm going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to be anonymous about it. I guard everyone else's anonymity, but not for me. I'm out there shouting it wherever I can go, whoever will listen. I'm just shouting it from the roof. That there's a way out of this BS that we're going through. There's a life after. If you're out there now, a couple of things I want to say to people out there. If you're out there now with the usual thing that you never feel good enough, you never think you can add up, you don't fit in, and you're too dumb to have a good job, I want to apologize to you guys because somebody's put that there. We're not born like this. We're born to conquer. We're born to stand up on our own 2 feet. We're born to stand up strong and fight and be the best person we can. Best father, best husband, best son. Somebody's put that there. And if you have the addicted brain, it will hold on to that until the most inept point in your life when you take that drink. And that'll give you all the comfort that the attaboys didn't come. You see, whenever you've got alcoholism, there's always childhood trauma. How do we define trauma as a child? Anything less than nurturing as a child is child abuse when you have the addicted brain. Get down off there, you stupid idiot. How many times have I told you you're never going to go to college like your brother? This is all damage into my brain. You see, I heard all that. So by the time I took my first drink, I had a self-sabotaging brain. I had neural pathways that took me down the wrong path every single time to destruction. See, I would build a bright future of I'd get that job, I'd get that wife, I'd get that child, then I'd destroy it all. Then I'd try building it up again. I'd look really good for the first few years. You can tell an alcoholic that goes to a job, he looks amazing. He's the best interviewed, he's the best candidate, he starts for the first few weeks, he's the model, absolute model employee. But after a short period of time, starts missing days, starts turning up late. Before you know what day it is, you have to fire him because he's a drunk. And that's the way we present ourselves. I'm here to change all that. Hey, mate, if you're listening out there going, oh my God, who is this guy? I'll tell you who I am. I'm the guy that's changing the freaking world on addiction. I'm the guy that's going to change everyone's world on addiction. I'm the guy that's getting people well. I'm the guy that says if you get well, you can do anything you want in the world. It's like quantum physics. Quantum physics, let's say a basketball court. It says I can be up to 25 places at the same time on that basketball court. Wow, it's a proven science. At the same time, we have the energy to be in so many places. Where do I want to be on that court? I want to be over near the goal. So when I get the ball, I pop it in the net. I'm the hero of the game. The question is, how do I get there? It's as simple as this. I walk over and I take that position. I don't interview for it. I don't ask for it. I walk over and I take that position. If you can visualize it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. And this is the secret that people are missing out on, especially the alcoholic brain, because we're all or nothing guys. If you think your lot is drinking and dying, you are wrong. I look back at my homeless days now. When I was there, I hated it. I hated everybody. But when I look back at it now, that period of time, that 12 months, it was like a semester at Harvard University with the stuff I learned on the streets. Because people come in and go, oh yeah, you Dr. Robb, you don't understand, man. You've never been homeless, check. Well, you never stabbed your what, check. You never lost your kid, check. You never committed suicide, check. You want to carry on this conversation? Because I've been taken to the depths. I didn't actually go to hell, but I could sure see it from where I was. So you come out of that, there's only one way to go. People go, Dr. Robb, why are you so happy every day? Are you kidding me? How can I be happy when I just got out of a dry bed? When I just got out of a bed? When this morning my wife brings me tea and toast in bed? What? You know, I don't have bad days. Now, I want to clarify, I have better days than others. Don't get me wrong about that. How can I have a bad day? You see, my job when I meet people and work with people and speak at places, it's not to piss and moan. It's not to tell you what a bad day I've had. That's for newcomers. My job is to bear witness to the still suffering alcoholic and addict and go, hey, let me tell you my story of how bad it got for me. Let me tell you how you don't have to go down that route and how there's a solution from now that you never have to drink again. And more than that, you can be the happiest person in the world. Because on a 1 to 10 scale, if you're not marking 10 every day, you're doing something wrong. Because we're meant to be happy, we're meant to be joyous, and we're meant to be free. Everyone says, you know, alcoholism, it's such an affliction. No, it's not. Freaking alcoholism is a freaking superpower. Because we are empowered when we get this deal right. And I can speak from experience that empowered people empower people. And the more people you can lift up, the better your life. You see, I've done research on the brain for 20 odd years. When I say thank you to somebody or compliment somebody, dopamine is released in my brain. I like dopamine. So I'm complimenting people every single day. I'm telling women how pretty they are. I'm telling guys how amazing they are. Because people need to hear this. Because how do you know what job you do right now on this radio station and podcast? Well, I do all right. Well, how do you know? Well, I don't really know. You do awesome. I've done my research before coming here. I have a girl goes out that you have to be a certain standard before I will even waste my time. You know? I mean, Jesus, I get paid like $1,400 an hour. I get $10,000 when I speak. You think I'm going to waste my time on a podcast that was a piece of crap? No. They've done the research on you. And you are amazing. And you change people's lives every time you speak. But do you know that? No, I bet you don't. This is the stuff that I tell people. It's like even the producer in the background, what he does is amazing. He puts this stuff together. You know, he takes all the little glitches, all the little pauses, all the little quiet parts, and he produces it, and he makes this thing that's going to go out and save people's lives. But unless you tell people, they don't know it. You know? They just don't know it because we're not used to hearing this stuff. And as an alcoholic, I want to bash it off, you know? Hey, Rob, look at them nice shoes you've got. Oh, it's just something I threw on last minute. That's all it is. It's crazy how we just push things away because we're not used to compliments. I take all the compliments in the world today. Do you know what I say? Thank you.
Why do you think that is? Because that's actually a good point. Most people, I think just in general, not even just in recovery, we're like, who? When someone compliments us, right? We're like, oh, thank you. Or maybe like subconsciously we're like, oh, they're just saying that because they have to.
Yeah.
They're just saying that. Yeah. They're just trying to, they don't really mean that. It's that like, still that negative self-talk, even when someone is maybe being very genuine and really does mean what they're saying. Why is that, do you think?
It's the internal dialogue that we tell the self-sabotaging brain. Listen, guys, we're never going to be thin enough. We're never going to be blonde enough. We're never going to be tall enough. We're never going to be rich enough. And when you start to accept that about yourself and ask yourself, are these people saying that just to be nice? No, they don't have to. Probably true. But we don't want to hear that because we're not used to that, because we didn't have the attaboys as a kid. Great job. Amazing. You did fantastic. And one of the downfalls of America, and I love America, don't get me wrong, but one of the downfalls of America is at school, everybody gets first prize. Everybody gets a trophy. So when you leave school and you hit the real world, it's like, damn, I'm not winning at nothing. And it affects us. It affects our self-confidence. It affects our self-esteem. I mean, these are the things that we need to start building up again, that not everybody gets a prize, guys.
No, they don't. That is not how the real world works. And I remember when that shift happened where it was everyone gets an award, participation or whatever. But it almost builds up false hope because not everyone's going to get the job promotion. Not everyone is going to, like, if multiple people are going for the same thing, not everyone's going to get it. Sometimes you're going to lose at things.
Yeah, and that's a tough lesson. I worked with a guy once his dad was a marathon runner, and he was a famous one. He was in the Olympics, and he wanted his son to run. And at school, when he was about 12, he entered a race. It was a half marathon, and there was only like 9 people in his school doing it. And the first 3 got a T-shirt, first, second, third. And his dad was there, and he trained him, and they did the race, and he come in 4th. And he told me, he said he tried his best, but his dad was disappointed in him. And his dad never said, good job. He just kept, you came 4th. The other 3 got a T-shirt. You came 4th. You got no T-shirt. And that's all he kept saying to him every time he got in a mood, because his dad was a drinker. He kept saying, well, you didn't get a T-shirt, did you? Where's your T-shirt? You know, we found out for the last 30 years he's been chasing that T-shirt. And he just couldn't let it go, because his dad's voice in his head all the time. You never got a T-shirt, Greg. What's all that about? And we had to release that. We had to go back to the scene of the crime, as we call it, and we have to clear that stuff up. Once you clear that stuff up, you're free. The trauma is relieved, and you can move on with your life. Because it took me a long time when somebody said, hey, good job, or hey, nice shirt, or hey, nice shoes. It took me a long time to just say these 2 words, thank you. It took me a long time to do that, because I couldn't brush it away. You know, oh, it's just something I threw on. Oh, it's just an old watch. I bought it 2 days ago. I didn't want anyone to know that. It was just an old thing that I'd throw on. And we have to work on that. We have to work on that respect for oneself. We have to work on that self-dialogue. Self-dialogue will kill me dead. It will kill me quicker than alcohol, because I've already gone down that route loads of times before. So what's the question to that? I do my mirror work every morning. I tell myself I love myself 10 times in the mirror. I'm tricking my subconscious brain. So when the worst comes to the worst and it's a knee-jerk reaction, my subconscious brain loves itself. And that's what brings over to the prefrontal cortex. Is I am worthy today. I am worth it. I am somebody today. And if you're doing the right thing and you're helping other people and you're working a good program, there's no such thing as ego. It's confidence. And I hate it when people say it to me. Oh, I saw you on telly last night, Rob. What's your ego? No, shut up before you even go down that road. It took me 20 years to have confidence to do what I do today. Don't be giving me that ego shit. That ain't going to work with me. Because everybody wants to destroy another person. It's like, how about lifting people up instead of destroying somebody with your nasty words because you can't do it, or you're not smart enough or brave enough to take the steps that I've taken. So instead of opening your mouth trying to degrade me, how about lifting somebody up for a change? Because I can say 2 words right now that can spoil anybody's day, because I'm pretty good at nasty words, especially when I'm drunk. But how about turning that around? You see, there's a Japanese guy many years ago did an experiment with water, and he had 2 sets of water in 2 different rooms. And in one room, and this is on the internet, guys, look it up. On one room, they played classical music, and they went in there and they give affirmations every day to that body of water. They went in the other room, they played grunge music, or whatever they played, and they screamed and shouted and cursed at the water. The molecules were different in the 2 waters. The molecules in the water that were shouted at were damaged. Yet the water that was good and were given good things, it was amazing. The water was amazing, nothing at all. So if our body is at least 70% water, what can words do to each other? And I'll tell you a classic thing, if I've got enough time. There's a patient came in once and he left, and I got a phone call, and my assistant ran in and said, his name was John L. He said, oh my God, John L's dad's just died. They can't get hold of him. Can you call him? I said, what's happened? It's been a horrific car accident on the freeway. So I called him up and I told him, and he was crying and shaking, and he'd actually wet himself because he lost all control. He was absolutely in a state. And I said, I'm going to get someone to drive you home. He said, I can't drive, Rob. He was absolutely sobbing and shaking. And he'd lost all control of his body. And I put the phone down and I'm looking around for somebody else and my assistant burst through the door and said, "Oh my God, we've got the wrong John. It's John B. John B, the next patient who's not here yet. His dad's died." And I'm like, holy moly. So I grabbed the phone quickly and I called John L up. I said, John, we've got the wrong person. And I explained to him, and he calmed down, and he said, "I can drive home now." And I put the phone down, and this is what I thought. I had the capacity to damage him, not only mentally, but physically. His body changed to my words over a phone that wasn't even true. Yet I devastated him, and he had no control over his body. Can you imagine if I turned that round and complimented people every day? Imagine how much I could build somebody up if I can tear somebody down with words that are not true. So I'm very careful what I say today. I'm very careful who I say it to, and I'm very careful who I surround myself by. Because I don't let anybody, because you hear it in rooms. We're all mad in here. I put my hand up and go, "Excuse me, don't count me in that thing. I'm not mad anymore. I used to be. I'm not mad anymore. I'm not insane." Because that's what addiction is. The definition of insanity is not being able to see my own truth as an alcoholic. It's not doing the same things over. It's not being able to see my own truth. I couldn't see I was an alcoholic. I couldn't see the devastation. I couldn't see why my mum died of cancer because of the worry. I can't see the devastation when I stabbed my wife that night. I couldn't see the devastation in my child's eyes every time he saw Daddy come all drunk. My sister and brother who had to let me go. I couldn't see that devastation. I couldn't see the cancer that I caused right through my family of devastating everybody I came into contact with. I couldn't see that. And my job today is to make people see who they really are. Say, everybody, you can do anything you want in the world. And the thing I used to say, and I kind of finish on this, is people always used to fire back. "Well, I can't be president." Well, today I beg to differ. Right now we have a business running the country. No experience of politics. So you can be anybody you want. We picked a guy up from jail in LA. We took him back to my ranch in Princeton, just outside McKinney. He was an old actor, has been, just done jail time. Took him back, built him up, and built him up, and built him up. And 2 days before he was going to leave, the knock at the door. The postman delivered a huge envelope. He said, it's for the guy in the other room. His name was on it. I walked into the other room, I handed the envelope, and said, "Your life's about to change." And he looked in the envelope, and he pulled it out, and he said, "It's a script." I said, "What's the movie called?" He said, "It's called Iron Man." I said, "I rest my case. A guy's gone on to be the biggest box star movie in the world. It's all about building you up, letting you know your full potential." That's what recovery is all about. Drop the mic and walks off. Boom!
Boom. That was awesome. So when are you coming to Houston to shake up the recovery community here? Because I think you should.
I would love, guys, if anybody's out there wants anybody to speak down there, I'm willing to speak anywhere you want. I want to get into Houston. I've always wanted to go to Houston, but I've not been yet. So yeah, I'm available to do anything you want. Yeah. Search me out. Just Google my name. You'll find me.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the book and some of the stuff that you're doing now. So you have a book. What's the name of your book?
Well, the name of my book is the last thing my daughter said to me was, "Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking." That's the name of the book. Now, there's a couple of things with the book. It's on Amazon only. If you haven't got a lot of money, go and download it on your iPad or something. It's free. The electronic download's free. If you want to buy the book, it's around $10. I want to tell you categorically, not all the profits, but all the proceeds that you spend on that book go out to the community around Texas. Goes round to, we spent $250,000 last year. You must be a one-parent family, you must have children, and you must be in recovery. We will buy you Christmas presents, birthday presents, we'll pay a year on your rent, we'll buy you a car, we'll do anything you want to lift up. So all them proceeds from that book go to that. So that's one thing. It's kind of my life story. For somebody who has a loved one, read it. For somebody suffering, read it. And after you read it, send me an email and we'll discuss it. The thing I'm doing today is I have a practice. I'm a psychologist, addiction psychologist, and I work with patients almost 24 hours a day and their families. And we're excited, and we do a lot of charity work, and I do a lot of TV work. I just signed a contract with the doctors, so we're going to be doing a lot of work there again, back on TV. We've got a reality show coming up soon about addiction, and follow me around. I've got some more books coming out. Just excited about the world. I'm just excited about everything right now. Life is good.
That's amazing. How's his COVID, has that affected the clinic or anything? Has that been an issue?
Well, I tell you why it's not, because we've been doing telehealth for the last 8 years. It's like on Facebook, all of a sudden, overnight, everybody was a telehealth provider. It doesn't work like that. I have a PhD in behavioral science. You cannot assess somebody on a computer unless you have knowledge and experience of every single body feature and involuntary muscle on your face, neck, and shoulders. This is why we're so successful. The normal treatment center has a 3% success rate. We have a 97% success rate. We do not fail. I will fight toe-to-toe, and my psychotherapists and my counselors, with your disease until you get well. That's how we do business here. We see so many people recover. Whether you're a driver or whether you're the biggest rock star in the world, we've worked with quite a few. It makes no difference to us. If you're suffering and you need help, we're the guys. We're a cash-only company. We don't do insurance. We don't want to rip anybody off. You know, we could sit here all day and take insurance and rip the government off. We're not about that. We're about honesty. We're about having some respect for oneself, and we're after guaranteeing the patient that comes along that we're going to get through this. But we don't only get them free from alcohol and drugs. We get them back with the families. We get them back with the kids. We reunite families. For the last 27 years, we've been reuniting families, because the addiction and the alcoholism is a given. We'll guarantee, money back guarantee, that if you don't get this deal and have an amazing life, we'll refund your money. And you probably can't see this. This is $100,000 that I keep in my office. It's for refunds. It's been there for 15 years that I've been in America. It's never been claimed yet. That's how good we are. Because we're positive and we're good and we're amazing. We're aggressive.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I love it. I just want to go to San Antonio and hang out. So just real quick, I just want to pick your brain about something. So I had seen, I saw the interview with the doctors, and so I was going to ask you this because, so it is election time, right? The state of Oregon, I don't know if you saw this, decriminalized hard drugs. So if you have certain amounts, most of them are like less than a gram. They had everything. What do you think about that? Like, why do you think more states haven't done that?
I think they're scared. I think they're really scared. And I think the fine line, and especially the explanation of what that actually means. Does it mean you can buy and sell drugs? No. Does it mean you can carry more than a gram? No. You still get locked up for that. But if you're found with a gram on for personal use, do we lock him away or do we offer him treatment? Well, we tried that with alcohol, remember? We tried to abolish alcohol and it didn't work out. It's the same with drugs. Stop putting people who need that gram to get through the night in jail for 10 years. Stop it. We're just paying the taxes to keep them guys in jail. They made a mistake. They got caught. They're probably addicted. Stop doing this. It's like throwing people with cancer in jail. Why are you doing this? There's a difference, guys, between a Friday night drunk and a Friday night alcoholic. One needs to be put in jail. The other needs to go and get help in a treatment center or hospital. We should be looking at this. I think they're very brave to do it. Just like legalized marijuana. Very brave. Colorado was the first state to do that. Very brave to do that. I think the rest should really consider following suit. We're not agreeing with it, but let's be honest, guys. We're not going to stop this. You know, I did a talk, well, on the doctors, I think it was, about rooms being used in medical facilities for people shooting up heroin up. Mm-hmm. And people started to kick off. Listen, would you rather find a needle on the floor that your daughter or son reaches out, grabs, and contracts some deadly disease? Or would you that guy go to a medical facility and do it in safe? You ain't going to stop it. You're just cutting down it affecting other people. That's all you're doing. And listen, if 50 heroin addicts goes into this room to inject safely in front of staff and maybe one or two counselors hanging around, and we save one life or we get one person clean, we've done our job. It's worth it. And I think people are so quick to go, oh, well, we should always have... No, you have to think about this. Everybody knows somebody who's using drugs and alcohol to excess. And I'll tell you something for nothing. If you don't, it's probably you. Because everybody knows somebody. It's too raunch, it's too rife, it's too out of control to start thinking that we can control this stuff. Most police are out there arresting people with a gram or less on them, or marijuana on them, than anything else. And the serious criminals are running riot because the police are too busy tied up with paperwork over 2 grams of amphetamines. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying we need to look at this with a sensible eye and make a calculated, agreed decision of what's legal and what's not.
So how would we start to change that? I mean, is that like writing senators, congressmen? I mean,
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. And most people I've spoke to, it's like, how did you start? Well, I used this substance. Why? Because I could. Because I couldn't. My mom said don't. The law said don't. So I'm going to try it because I'm a teenager. It's like, well, what if it was just free? Oh, I don't know.
It's not as fun, right? It's not as fun if you know you can do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say something now, guys. Marijuana is not a gateway drug if you have the normal brain. But if you have the addictive brain, of course it is, because you're going to go on to use anything else. But, you know, marijuana has been used for years and years and years. It's only the last 30, 40 years we think it's a problem. I mean, it goes back years and years. If you have the normal brain, you can use marijuana. You can use pain meds good. We don't want to cast everybody on the same net here, you know? Most people that are addicted and started on pain pills have the addictive brain to begin with. And if you're not insured, trace it through your family. If there's no alcoholism or addiction in your family history going back for at least 4 or 5 generations, then you ain't got a problem. You know, you really haven't got a problem. You might become a little bit addicted, but you can stop. There's a difference between the 2 brains, without a doubt.
Wow, this was great. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to touch base with or talk about?
So here's something. First of all, I spell my name with 2 B's, Robb Kelly. So if you want to look me up or you want some help, robbkelly.com is the website. Dr. Robb Kelly on all the Google searches, just search me out and you know, you can look us up. But more than that, if you're a mom or a dad who's worrying about loved ones, or if you're an addict or an alcoholic that just needs a couple of, you know, legs up, I'm going to give you a pep talk that will change your freaking life forever. Okay? So I'm going to give you my personal cell phone number, not my assistant, not my staff, not the reception. This is my personal cell phone number. Call me. It's me. It's going to really be me who answers the phone. And if you're down and want a pep talk, call me. I'll change your life in 10 minutes. It's not going to cost you anything. Advice is always free here. 214-600-0210. You see, I'm not one of these idiots that need for the money. I've got enough money, thank you very much. I could retire tomorrow. But I'm here to help people. I still run a business, but, you know, a 20-minute pep talk could save your life. It's not going to cost you anything. Call me.
I love this. I love that. I love that you just did that. That's amazing. This was so great. Any personal shout outs you want to give to anyone?
I want to shout out to all the first responders, obviously, doing a great job, guy. All the firemen out there. I want all the police officers. I want you to know there's a lot more people behind you than you think. Do not stop doing your job. You're there for a reason. Hey, listen, why don't you compliment 3 people tomorrow, everybody who's listening to this? Compliment 3 people. Watch your life take off. Watch that dopamine start flowing. I want to shout out to all the people that are suffering out there. This is not your lot, guys. This is education. Get through it. Start dialogue with somebody. Get your freaking life back. Let's start living the dream instead of dreaming of living.
That was great. Man, so this was so much fun. This will obviously be on the Facebook page. We'll make sure we have all of your links everywhere. This will also be on our YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Google podcast for Android users. Super excited. Thank you so much. This was really great. A shout out to Transformations for letting me use the building. Yeah, and with that, we're going to sign off. Thank you.